This team stinks. Yes, I'm talking about the Canadian World Junior team. They absolutely suck. I know people who are hockey fans and those who are sport fans are wondering the same thing. Why is this the worst team we've ever iced in over 20 years at this World Junior Tournament? And I would say potentially anything above U18 is probably the worst we've ever iced, we've ever put out there. They're terrible. Outshot all their opponents and can't score a goal 5-on-5 for their lives. Lost to Latvia in a shootout, a team they've been smoking for years. Lost to the US just because they took almost a whole period's worth of penalties. This team stinks. And no, I'm not going to completely flame the players because they're all 18, 19-year-old kids, and I'm not going to completely murk them, but I'm also going to murk the coaching staff. These guys are terrible. Asked after the game against the US, what would you do to address the discipline issues of their team? I'm not going to do anything. You can't really bench them at this point. No accountability, no care, just, it's okay. We move on. They know better, but, we're gonna trust them. Are you nuts? Bunch of young, impressionable, emotional players, you're just going to leave them out there. Let them figure it out for themselves. Well, you deserve what you get. And I know you're wondering, okay, Josh, what the heck are you starting off a political show talking about a U20 hockey tournament here in Canada? Well, I wish it was just a U20 hockey tournament here in Canada. I really wish that was the case. But this has become such a cultural staple for Canadians. The last World Juniors saw over 8.5 million viewers tune in. That's close to 20% of our population. This is important. This is a key issue. And I wish it wasn't the case because the pressure being put on a bunch of 18, 19-year-olds is not fair. It's not right, but it's where we find ourselves. We are in tumultuous political times in Canada, and we just need a win. We hate our leader. We hate the politics that we're governed under. We're shouting from the rooftops, please give us an election earlier rather than later. And our politicians say, no, screw you. I'm going to take my pension instead. No, screw you. I'm going to take the power instead. No, screw you. I'm going to take care of my family instead. I'm going to take care of my cabinet position instead. That's what we're getting here in Canada. So we just need a win. World Junior time is that moment, is that win for us. Oh, Canada can at least put some competitive forward, maybe capture a gold medal. It would be nice. And yet here, 2024, we get this garbage in front of us. Hockey Canada putting out hot garbage on the ice. I knew as soon as I saw the coach, this guy stinks. I don't know why they keep bringing this brother back. Dave Cameron oversaw one of the biggest collapses in Canadian hockey history. Up 3-0 to the Russians in a gold medal game and lost 5-3 in one period. This guy's never said, he's won a gold medal. He won a gold medal back in 2022, 2021, whatever it was. Yeah. He was millimeters from losing that gold medal too. If it wasn't for McTavish saving the puck off the goal line, he'd be another loser again. And that was a well-equipped team. That was a well-assembled team. But Hockey Canada giving us this garbage. And as I said at the start, Josh, why are you starting off this show with sports, with hockey, with the World Juniors? Why are you starting there? Well, unfortunately, we have this thing called a democracy. And obviously I'm being facetious when I say that. We imported democracy from the Greeks. And the Greeks, the way they saw their government system and how their culture was fabricated and the foundations they built their society on were these 3 pillars: democracy, philosophy, and sport. These are the 3 pillars they built their society on. And when we take the idea of democracy from the Greeks and import it to the West, we are naturally going to import their values. Sport is a significant value and foundation in our society. Sport, entertainment. I would put those 2 together. Philosophy, also another word for education, science, these things. And then democracy, our politics, how things operate. These 3 things are intertwined together. And we in Canada, we have a democracy. We have electoral processes here, as much as they're in shambles at the moment. We have these things. Thus is why when you see something terrible happen in sport, we saw this down in the States with baseball, with the steroid issues and the juicing that was happening. There's a reason why those players got hauled into Congress. Democracy, sport, philosophy are all intertwined. When the entertainment and foundation of entertainment in our society is threatened, it involves politics. It impacts politics. It impacts culture. This is just the reality that we live in. This is how it works. I'll give you some examples, not just specific to Canada, but also in different parts, USA as well. 1936, Jesse Owens wins 4 golds in Berlin. 1936 is when Germany hosted the Olympics. And this was an opportunity for Hitler and his Nazi party to show that the Aryan race is supreme. That what we have over here, what we want to do, is the best way to live. Those Olympics became very political in nature. Jesse Owens, a black American, went and won 4 golds on German soil. It was a shot to the heart of the plans and belief systems of Hitler, his Nazi party, and Germany. 1938, 2 years after that, Joe Louis knocks out Max Schmeling in round 1 of a boxing match. Joe Louis, black American. Max Schmeling, German. Max Schmeling beat Joe Louis in the Olympics, I think 2 years prior, a year prior. Then they had a rematch in New York City, and Joe Louis knocked him out in the first round. It was a battle of ideas being taken out into the ring. Battle of politics being presented in sport. Or we have the Miracle on Ice, 1980, U.S.-American team against the Soviets near the tail end of the Cold War. A bunch of ragtag American kids took on the best of the Soviet Union. And the Soviets were machines. They were unreal. They were a talented bunch. And just a ragtag kids from America took them out. No NHL players, all quote-unquote amateurs, took out the Soviets. That was a big win for America. It was a battle of political ideas being presented on the ice. Communism versus democracy. And then I'll pivot to something more Canadian-centric. 1972, the Summit Series. The politics that were going on behind this were very interesting. Again, this is near the height of the Cold War at this point. The communist Soviet Union fighting for political influence and economic influence in the world with the West. The Soviet Union had their hockey team, and they had the best of the best players. Peter Mahovlich, Yaroslav Krejcik. They didn't play in the NHL, so they were allowed to play in international play. There were strict rules that the IIHF, International Ice Hockey Federation, had around having NHL players play in their tournaments. Professional players were not allowed to play in them. But the Soviets didn't have their players playing in the NHL. So they could go around and smoke everybody. And this is where I say, oh, you don't think politics and sport are interconnected. Well, Canada really wanted to make sure their NHL players could play in international play. Canada, country. So much so that they went and created an organization called Hockey Canada to address these issues and to oversee the national team and get NHL players to be able to play. That was the formation, that was the origination of how Hockey Canada was formed. Built and created by the government of Canada. Sport and politics show to be interconnected. Hockey Canada were in discussions with the USSR of having an 8-game series. The Soviets' best against Canada's best. A battle of ideas out on the ice. Communism versus democracy. Freedom versus oppression. This was a highly political series. It was expected, oh, now we have the NHL players. Canada, Team Canada, has a bunch of NHL players that can play now against Russia's best, or Soviets' best. They should smoke them. And what happens? Well, Canada loses the first game, but then they came back and won game 2. They went and tied game 3, and they lost game 4, and it'd be the last game that they would have in Canada of this whole series. Canadians have always taken pride in their hockey, because we've talked about it before, we have a lack of culture. But the things we do have in our culture, we take a lot of pride in. Hockey being one of them. And fans were booing this team off the ice. And I'm going to show you an interview that happened at the end of that. Phil Esposito goes on to address the booing and address the fans. Listen to the interview, listen to the exchange, but then listen to the voiceover at the end of Phil Esposito, looking back on the time of that interview.
As a team of outcasts head to their dressing room, one player remains on the ice. Phil Esposito is given the microphone to address a wounded nation.
For the people across Canada, we tried, we did our best, and for the people that boo us, geez, all of us guys are really disheartened, and we're disillusioned, and we're disappointed in some of the people. We cannot believe the bad press we've got, the booing we've gotten in our own buildings, and if the Russians boo their players, if the Russians boo their players like some of the Canadian fans, I'm not saying all of them, some of them booed us, then I'll come back and I'll apologize to each one of the Canadians, but I don't think they will. I'm really disappointed. I am completely disappointed. I cannot believe it. Some of our guys are really down in the dumps. We know, we're trying, but hell, I mean, we're doing the best we can, and they got a good team, and let's face facts. But it doesn't mean that we're not giving it our 150%, because we certainly are.
I think, Phil, the disappointment is a natural thing, because the whole thing was an unexpected thing. We all live with the National Hockey League. We have all been so proud over the years how great they are.
It's unexpected because of the press said that we were so good. Not one of us guys ever said we were good.
No, this is the thing. This is the thing that I'm, on behalf of the fans, I must say that probably, since everything is relative, we know how good you people are. The people didn't realize how good the Soviet team was, and now we found out how good they are. I think we can appreciate how good both teams are.
But I'll tell you, we love, I mean, every one of us guys, 35 guys that came out and played for Team Canada, we did it because we love our country and not for any other reason, no other reason. They can throw the money for the pension fund out the window. They can throw anything they want out the window. We came because we love Canada. And even though we play in the United States and we earn money in the United States, Canada is still our home, and that's the only reason we come. And I don't think it's fair that we should be booed.
As I was doing that, people were yelling and screaming at us, calling me names. Communism is better, don't you admit it now, and all this other stuff. This is Vancouver. And guys out of the stands were yelling that communism is best and it's supreme. That's when I really realized, man, we are in a war here. This is no game. This is war.
This is no game. This is war. And back to the foundations that our society is built on. There's a reason why sport, philosophy, and politics are intertwined. We see it here. You had fans yelling at him that communism was better, clearly, that we're getting smoked by the Soviets on our home ice. Politics taking center stage on ice, right in the middle of the Cold War. This was all taking place. Battle of ideas taking place between the boards. First game back in Russia, Russia would win that game. Back in the USSR, back in the Soviet Union. And at this point, the Soviets had won 3 out of the 5 games. They'd won 3, tied 1, and then dropped 1 Canada. Then Canada would storm back and win the next 3 to take it all. Many boomers, Gen X, would remember this goal. It was Paul Henderson scoring the go-ahead goal for Canada to win the series.
Bernoyer has it on that wing. Here's a shot. Henderson made a wild stab for it and fell. Here's another shot. Right in front of the score. Henderson has scored for Canada. Henderson right in front of the net. And the fans of the team are going wild. Henderson right in front of the Soviet goal with 34 seconds left in the game. An absolute mob scene over Paul Henderson, as there should be, but you can't underrate the effort again of Phil Esposito.
It sent a country in a frenzy because in this game, Paul Henderson's goal wasn't just a goal. It was showing that democracy wins, showing that freedom wins. Freedom beats communism. Freedom beats oppression. And then you wonder why Gen X and boomers and those who understand their history are so frustrated by what they see in our politics nowadays. Because not only did our people fight wars over these things, our culture won battles on the ice over these ideals. So when we're in the political turmoil that we currently are in, and we have these poor World Junior kids, 18, 19, 20 years old, putting out such a poor effort and such a terrible representation of Canadian hockey out on the ice, this is why they're frustrated. Right now, as it stands, we'll be seeing this in the next Olympics, but for the past 10 years, coming up on 11 years, NHL players haven't been able to play in the Olympics. We don't have a best-on-best tournament right now, aside from the World Cup of Hockey, but we haven't had a true best-on-best tournament in quite some time. The only thing we have that's close to a best-on-best tournament is the World Juniors year over year. That's why so many Canadians fixate on it and focus on it. And that's why right now with what we're facing as a Canadian nation, politicians that hate us continue to put themselves over the country, implementing policies that can oppress Canadians, a country that has become a laughingstock on the world stage, culture that is being degraded every day, healthcare is in the dumps, our economy is in the dumps, more people immigrating here every day, unfortunately, degrading our way of life. We brought too many people in at one time that we couldn't maintain social, cultural cohesion. So all the things that we've held dear are now disappearing. And it's not a racial thing, that's just a reality thing. Not saying it's any of the people who are immigrating here, it's their faults. It's our government and their policies that overpromised, underdelivered, and now our systems and institutions are overrun with too many people and we can't keep up. So much negativity going on that Canadians are holding on to the one thing. Literally, it's sad, but it's the reality. Our one thing, and that's hockey. And the closest to best on best we have is these World Juniors. And man, they stink this year. And I'm not exaggerating, probably one of the worst teams I've seen on the ice in 20 years. Is it fair to put this expectation on a bunch of young kids? No. Quite frankly, I wish they could just live their life and play hockey and it be that. But unfortunately, the turmoil of our politics and what's going on currently, these World Juniors are more than just a game this year. It's just a little bit of political hope, a little bit of encouragement for Canadians to get through these dark times. Canada plays quarterfinal against Czechia tonight, and their long road to hopefully to getting a gold medal is going to be a long road at that. A lot of people aren't hopeful. We'll see what happens. Hoping for the best, but from what we're seeing, our expectations are low. It still means I'm still going to tune in. I'm still going to watch. I'm still going to cheer them on, but it isn't without its utmost disappointment. And I'm looking forward to posting this here midday today. They play 8:30 tonight, Atlantic time, 7:30 Eastern. And I hope they start a long run that when I come back to this video in a week's time, that I'm made a liar, I'm made a fool, and maybe this becomes bulletin board material. I hope that's what happens. Anyways, folks, have yourselves a good one. I'll see you later. I'm out.